Hi, this is more to the story, The Last Dance, and exploring true greatness. In this part, I'm going to explore what is the best motivator for greatness, and specifically, true competitiveness. We as humans not only want to be in the presence of greatness, but we are also motivated to want to be great too. Like MJ and us, there's nothing wrong in wanting to be great, but what motivates him and us to be great impacts not only people's opinion of our greatness, as explored in part 1, but also impacts our actual success. Let me explore through the Last Dance documentary why playing beyond self rather than to prove self is true competitiveness, but also leads to true greatness and possibly even more success. One of the first things known about MJ's motivation for greatness was his competitiveness and desire to win at all costs. Now, not only did this competitiveness obviously lead to some of his success, but it also seemed to take away from the romance of his greatness, exposing his selfishness. And I would also suggest took away from more success for him. Now, MJ was known for being a heavy gambler, and he once said he didn't have a gambling problem, but a competitive problem. And for me, one of the most ironic moments in the documentary was when MJ is betting with his security guard in a coin tossing game. I mean, here he is, about to compete in a big basketball game, but MJ can't give up an opportunity to win a bet. And this is similar to when one teammate asked MJ why would he leave big blackjack games to play $1 blackjack with teammates. And MJ said, "I want to say I have your money in my pocket." I mean, the bloke earns millions, yet here he is, more worried about beating others in almost every or any moment. But shouldn't we expect him, being one of the greatest, to be addicted to competing? Well, I think more specifically, these examples make him as a person appear less great and make MJ look even silly and incredibly self-focused. So MJ was really addicted to proving self. And although he could prove himself against any player, whether Magic, Malone or Miller, he couldn't perfectly prove himself to the media, because when they found out about his significant gambling debts, they beat him down with relentless questioning of his character for being reckless and selfish because of these debts. So not only did this addiction to proving self probably cause gambling debts, and for the same reason make the media criticise him, this addiction to proving self made the media's criticism feel so overwhelming to MJ that it was a big reason he chose to retire in 1993. I mean, MJ must have felt like he had failed to prove himself and he couldn't take it. His dad even once said he has sacrificed to try to satisfy everybody. After doing all of that, people still find a way of knocking him. He's saying, "Damn, how much is enough?" Now look, this is only speculation, but I wonder if his addiction to competing and proving self actually pushed him over the edge to retire and therefore miss out on possibly 2 more championships in 94 and 95. A second to that, I think MJ actually wasn't too competitive. But in a way, he wasn't competitive enough. Because did you know that the original definition of competing in Latin means to strive together? So in sport, a mutually agreed quest for excellence, not to strive to prove self. That MJ's motives were often to prove self rather than beyond self. I mean, think about it. Sport at the fundamental level, in order to compete, players must agree cooperatively to oppose one another within the agreed rules. And unless that happens, there's no competition. But true competitiveness, I believe, is where you actually are trying to get the best out of yourself and your opponent within the rules. So I'm not saying true competitiveness is letting your opponent get an easy rebound. No, that's under-competitive. And neither am I saying abusing opponents, like MJ was renowned for, to win as being competitive, or even over-competitive. I'd say more like anti-competitive. Because you are using something outside the agreed rules to win or prove self, to deliberately not get the best out of your opponent. So true competitiveness is where a player is going as hard as they can in the game to make their opponent also go as hard as they can in order to get the best out of each other. And when players compete like that, they are motivated beyond self for the good of the game. So I wonder if the Bulls won championships not because of, but in spite of MJ's anti-competitive style, shall I now say. I mean, they had the best player in the world and arguably the second best player, the best rebounder and best coach. And we've seen teams since with similar combinations have dynasties. So Kobe, Shaq, Phil Jackson, or Curry, Thompson, Durant under Kerr. Now, as said in The Last Dance, the downfall of many players is that they think about failure, whereas MJ was so focused on the present. Unfortunately, I'd argue he might have been more than just focused on the present, but also so focused on proving self that he couldn't think or plan ahead, which meant or led to him pushing his teammates beyond what they could handle. And I think this created low trust and fear within the team and division in the Bulls organisation. Imagine if he'd found other ways to sustain motivation and maintain unity. How much more success might he and the Bulls had beyond The Last Dance in 1998? Now, MJ had occasionally played beyond self, and one moment where that led to success is the scene mentioned in part 1, where MJ selflessly passes the ball to Steve Kerr, and Kerr hits the shot to win the championship. And we see so clearly, he moved from proving self to beyond self and allowed the team to reach excellence through him. He was now striving with a teammate towards excellence rather than to prove self. So what is the best motivator for greatness? Well, it is when someone is truly competitive and performing for beyond self. This is not only desirable, but also can lead to more sustainable success. But click into part 2B, where I look some more at the best motivator for greatness and how more specifically MJ's motivation influenced his relationships with others and had impact on his success.